Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone.
Guys, we're gonna start.
Evening, folks. Okay, I'm going to call this Law Committee meeting to order. Majority Council, would you kindly take attendance?
Sure. Kuhn and Plotsky are excused. Reedy? Oh,
I'm here,
Kuhn is
but only for, pardon me.
Reedy?
Here.
Feeney?
Here.
Larillier? Here. McLaughlin? Ricard?
Present.
Bergdorf?
Here.
And Pearlie.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. We will take item, I'm going to take,
The first item is approving previous minutes.
I get a motion.
Motion. Second.
Motion for Mr. Ricard, second for Mr. Feeney. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous?
Second, we're going to jump to item 23, which is amending the 2025 Public Defender's Office budget for salary adjustments. Judge Herrick is here this evening.
Good evening, Judge Herrick.
Good evening, thank you. I'm here with Keith Bellato, who is our Director of Accounts. This is a request for legislative action. It's a budget-neutral request from existing funds to accomplish two things. One is we are, as you all know, financed by the state and the county, primarily the state. So we have titles, job titles, that do the exact same thing that have different salaries. One is funded by the state, one is funded by the county as an example, and the effort here is to make those salaries equal using existing funds. And the other objective of this RLA is to get approval to increase some of the salaries on our budget to keep them competitive. It's necessitated to do it at this time because we have the county budget, which is made available to us at a different time from the state budget. So we have been working with management and budget with the county, addressing these issues for over a period of time, and now come to the legislature for approval of what we are requesting. And if you have any questions regarding the specifics of this, that's why Mr. Bellato is here. But this is budget neutral, provided by a decrease in existing, from existing funds of enhanced pay and fees for services to provide for the increases in the salaries as indicated in the proposal.
Thank you. Any questions? I will take a motion. Or do you have a question, sir?
It's just a knowledge question. What is a mitigation specialist?
A mitigation specialist is a lot of the work that we've started to do in the last several years is to get mitigation information that will assist us to get the best outcome for our clients. So they put together basically a biography of a client. They go out and get information from all of their life's experiences, put it together into a report that we present to the court or to probation to get favorable outcomes. And we have a mitigation team that consists of caseworkers or social workers. The mitigation, the title that you just used, the mitigation specialist, which is a non-degreed professional person with a life experience that would allow them to go out into the communities that we work with to get this information.
Okay, thank you.
I'll take a motion.
Motion.
Motion from Mr. Kuhn, second from Mr. Feeney. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Items 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or I'm sorry, and 8 are tabled at request of sponsor. Item 9 is withdrawn. Items 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 are tabled at request of sponsor. Item 17 is tabled at request of sponsor, and item 21 and 22 are tabled at request of sponsor. So next up is item 16, a local law B for 2025, a local law of the County of Albany, amending the Albany County Code, setting forth requirements that the Albany County Department of Health notify local officials regarding enhanced contaminant levels found in drinking water in Albany County.
Elevated.
Yes, we did change the word, it just hasn't been updated in the Granicus title.
Wait a minute, Jeff is here?
Oh, not for the whole meeting.
Sorry.
Ms. Cunningham is
Yes.
here on that item.
Madam Chair.
Yes, local law B, this is the notification law. We had the public hearing last night. We didn't have any speakers on it. I went over kind of the changes in pretty good detail last month that we made that relate to just some language that the health department, the Albany County Health Department recommended, made some other tightening language, so I'd like to move it out.
Any questions? I'll take a motion.
So move
Motion by Mr. Feeney, seconds from Ms. LaRilliard. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Next up is item 18, authorizing the submission of grant applications by the various offices and departments of Albany County government without individual action by the Albany County Legislature. Mr. Feeney is here this evening.
This is just to try to streamline the process for grants so that they don't have to come in and ask us permission to submit the applications for the grants. So we just thought that it would be something to make things move along a little quicker and less onerous when they're applying for grants. And I talked to Paul earlier, and Paul, you suggested you wanted a little change on it.
Yeah, I had suggested, Dennis, that while I understand the need to not have people come back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, in some instances, the grant process is a long-term process, and I would suggest that we require the departments to notify the chair, the majority leader, and the minority leader when they put in a grant request. And there's no discretion, nobody can say no, but at least you know that that's where a department is particularly looking to enhance services or something like that. Dennis said he thought that would be okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with that change.
Okay.
I just want to say this is really smart to do. I'm glad you're doing this. Heard from not just one department but another as well that sometimes those grant requests are really tight turnaround. And if you miss the cycle to get an RLA in, because you have to seek permission to apply for the grant, you're going to seek permission to accept the grant. So I think it's a great efficiency.
Do we need to have a motion to amend?
No, we can update it before the legislative meeting.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Any other questions? I will take a motion. Motion for Mr. Kuhn, second Mr. Ricard. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Item 19 is a public hearing on proposed local law number C for 2025, a local law of the County of Albany, New York, amending Chapter 270 of the Albany County Code regarding creating a real property tax exemption for construction of accessory dwelling units on existing residential parcels.
This is just a public hearing for the ADU. We also talked about that in some detail, so I'd like to have a motion to move out the public hearing.
Any questions, comments? Mr. Kuhn?
No, I was just gonna move it.
Mr. Kuhn's motion. Are you seconding or do you have a question or
Well,
comment? Mr.
I'll
Ricard?
second it, but I have an informational question. It happened to be on the tour at St. Rose, and one of the city councilmen said they're trying to do the same thing in the city of Albany. Is our definitions consistent, or do they need to be consistent? Or, so that if we were to adopt a real this law, I haven't actually read the text. I don't know if there's a square footage in it or something like that. Is there any benefit for there to be any consistency with what any of the other communities are doing?
ADU is defined by state code, state building code.
So it would be,
It would automatically
by law?
be the same in every municipality.
So I wonder why the city of Albany would be looking at.
They're looking to add ADUs as a whole to their program. They do not currently allow ADUs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
A motion and a second.
Motion, or second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
Item 20 is a public hearing on proposed local law number D for 2025, a local law of the County of Albany, New York, authorizing appropriation of funds to the Albany County Convention, the Albany Convention Center Authority.
Okay, so this is the public hearing for local law, which we introduced by Article 11, Rule 11, at our last meeting. The local law, and I asked our counsel who drafted this to come join me in case there's any questions about the drafting. But this creates a kind of the framework of what will be introduced via resolution in the next exchange that will detail kind of what the details of the funding agreement are between the county and the convention center. We have Monica Kuzieski here, who is the head of the convention center. Thanks for joining us, Monica. And also want to just say thank you to Monica and her team for all of the collaborative work that we have gone back and forth on. And Monica also joined us at our last meeting in the legislature. So this is step one, which is a local law. And again, the mechanics and the articulation of what is essentially the funding agreement and what the convention center and the county are agreeing to, which amounts to the county serving as a backstop for the debt reserve of their bond that they are seeking. And in exchange for that, we worked out an agreement that essentially gives the county some additional hotel occupancy tax revenue that comes out of the convention center's bucket. I'm not going to go into the structure of that today because we will have a more intensive discussion when the resolution, which articulates this, is released, other than to say that we sat down together, Monica and a few members of her board, and essentially what this relationship is and the funding agreement kind of contemplates is a partnership between the county and the Convention Center Authority to help them achieve their goals, which is expanding the Convention Center, doubling their size, and in exchange for kind of supporting or backstopping their debt reserve if they can't make their debt payments. The county would receive administrative fees that would come out of the convention center's hot tax. There's going to be other requirements in the resolution, i.e. the funding arrangement, that will articulate how the county is made whole. Remember, the county collects the hot tax receipts, so we're envisioning that if we have to rely on the county's backstopping of their debt reserve payment, that we would be made whole through the collection of the hot tax, where we would kind of swoop it and make ourselves whole, and then whatever receipts go to the convention center would go to the convention center. So this is just kind of the kickoff of the public hearing, and we have counsel here if you have any specific questions. But we're going to dig into this when we see the resolution, which will articulate this in a way that you can follow along. Anything else you want to say?
The only correction I would have is resolutions.
Oh, right, because we're doing this as two
Yeah.
resolutions.
Do it as two resolutions. One resolution it's needed and make ourselves whole off of the top. The second resolution would be detailing what would be our administrative arrangement, which is the portion of the increased hot tax revenue that we anticipate receiving from the convention center as their project gets up and running and hopefully attracts more business to the county.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Mr. Bergdorf?
Just more of a procedural question. Does this require ratification by the state legislature? Because it's a change to
No,
funding
no.
streams? No, this is all just
Because-
like an intermunicipal agreement, for lack of a better term. State authority and the county.
In effect,
Okay. And you hit on the key one for me, which is if there is a shortfall, whose bucket does it come out of? And it comes out of the capital center's bucket, which is kind of strange, because if they can't pay the debt reserve, we're gonna take it off the top. So,
That's like the safety valve.
yeah,
almost like think of it like an advance on your paycheck.
yeah, no, I get it,
Okay?
I will take Mr. Grimm.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Does this change the infamous formula at all?
No, it doesn't
Which
change,
is, well, I
which
think
is,
it's unfair to us. I mean, shouldn't that be a motivation of these agreements, that there's some way we can make this a fair circumstance?
I'm pretty sure that has been discussed and debated for a couple of decades or so.
Yeah, still unfair. After 2
It's
decades.
still not to our liking, but what we do like is that we're working directly with the convention center, who's agreed to give us certain percentages off the top of their. So the goal is the same, more money out of the hot tax. We're just getting there in a more creative, living in the real world mechanism, rather than trying to, again, convince our state lawmakers to change the formula.
Well, I understand how there's a public hearing without the resolutions. How do we have a hearing without the resolutions?
Well, I mean,
The
it
public
isn't-
hearing is on the local law itself. All the local law does is create this as a project and state that it's an appropriate governmental purpose. That's all this local law does. So we need to have a public hearing on the local law itself. The resolutions will come shortly, as Thomas said, but the local law has nothing to do logistically with the resolutions.
But the resolution will allow us an opportunity to see the numbers that you're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, and we're gonna dig deep into that
Oh,
and
yeah.
kind of walk through it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Take a motion.
I'll move.
Mr. Feeney, second.
Second.
Second for Mr. Ricard. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Please, well, no, please no my abstention.
Oh, yeah.
And we have one abstention for Mr. Kuhn.
And then moving back to item 4 is a public hearing on proposed local law number N for 2024, a local law of the County of Albany, New York, amending the Albany County Charter, and local law number 8 for 1993 is amended. And I believe Faye Fetter from the Executive's Office is here to present on this item tonight.
Hey everyone, my name is Faye Fetters.
So Faye, can I just do a little setup for you? This is the charter change that would move us to the medical examiner model. Lots and lots of interest in this and lots of resources going into this. We're not gonna ask that this be moved out. This is the beginning of a series of discussions that we'll have with the body, with this committee, rules committee, kind of walk through how we envision this taking place. Faye is in the county exec's office and is a very talented analyst who also happens to have a background in forensic science and understands sort of the model, business model, if you will, of the medical examiner versus the coroner model. Faye is working also with Courtney in the majority's office, so the legislature's been all in. In fact, Courtney, if you want to join her up there, you're welcome, because I know that you've done a lot of work as well. But this is just the beginning. We wanted to give you kind of the initial analysis of, how this transition could occur in a very thoughtful, methodical way that would be good for the county. So more to come, we're not gonna move it out, but we thought we'd spend 15 minutes or so kind of getting a little bit of the, baseline of where this analysis has led us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for the introduction. So again, my name is Faye Fetters. I'm the Data Analytics and Performance Management Coordinator for Albany County. My position resides within management and budget. So this is simply an update to what was presented last time. So the first two slides are repetitive from last time. It's more just to keep everything condensed and together. The first slide, again, just outlines the differences between coroners and medical examiners. One of the biggest differences being that coroners are, at least in Albany County, elected officials. Medical examiners would be appointed. Coroners do not have to be a medical doctor. Medical examiners do have to have that. Second slide. Again, and this was presented last time as well, but just as a refresher, these were some of the options for Albany County going forward if we did decide to move at some point from coroners to a medical examiner model. Some of those options are keeping the coroner's office the way it is. Second one is changing to a medical examiner model and continuing with a contract with the local hospital for facility space or for them to conduct autopsies on our behalf. And then third is do a complete redesign, if you will, changing to a medical examiner model and building a space for autopsies and things like that to occur. So, next page. So, our working group reviewed different counties and how they're structured and how they went about changing from coroners to medical examiners. There were a lot of differences, which was a nice unexpected surprise for us because that gives Albany County options. So what we found is predominantly what counties did was kind of build it from the ground up. They would move away from the coroners, get medical examiners, and build out their own facility space for the medical examiners to work out of. Some counties partnered with the local hospital for that facility space. Sometimes those agreements are written so that the pathologists on staff in the hospital are conducting the autopsies. There's also ones where the medical examiner that the county hired is working out of that hospital space. In the case of Oneida and Onondaga County, they actually have an agreement so that Onondaga County is the medical examiner for Oneida. The next page, there should also be a larger printout of it. So what this is kind of a 10,000-foot view of the steps that take place from when somebody passes away to when the body is released to next of kin. So again, this is, I know it's a lot to look at, so I'm going to go over it very briefly again. This is just a 10,000-foot view. So the blue boxes at the very top, those are going to be your physical locations. So you have your 911 dispatch center, which is when the call comes in. You have your scene, which is where the decedent is going to be located. You have your morgue/hospital, your toxicology lab, funeral home. The boxes underneath the blue boxes are the staff members that interact with those physical locations. The green ones are going to be staff that would remain unchanged from a coroner model to a medical examiner model. The orange ones are the ones that are going to shift. And this isn't just Albany County specific, these are other counties as well. So again, this is just a quick view, if you will, of some of the moving pieces that our working group has had to take into consideration as we move through this process and through our analysis. So for instance, under the blue box that says scene, second from the left, you have the orange box that says coroner. Instead of the coroner responding to the scene where the decedent is located, you could have a death investigator respond, you could have a medical examiner respond. There's a couple different ways you could go about it. Again, that's just one example of some of the staffing changes that would have to occur. So after doing our analysis and looking at what other counties are doing, our recommendation at this point is to pursue a cross-county partnership with another county. So what this means is identifying a neighboring county that has a successful medical examiner model in place and working with them, whether that county is now Albany County's medical examiner as well. So they would take on our caseload and the associated work, or whatever that agreement may look like. So again, this isn't something completely fresh and new. This has been very successfully done with Onondaga and Oneida. They've been doing it, I believe, for over 10 years at this point. And both parties, to my understanding, have found it worked quite well for them. So decedent transport currently under our coroner model is handled by Albany County Funeral Homes. That would more than likely remain in place because those funeral homes are located in Albany County. We're not trying to remove business from them. They know the area. They have the required vehicles to conduct that type of business, to move the decedents from the scene to the morgue or hospital where they need to go. Next page, this just digs more into the cross-county partnership. So at this point, what we're doing is we're identifying a neighboring county that may be interested in pursuing this with us, which again would mean Albany County would move from coroners to medical examiners, but this neighboring county would take on that medical examiner work because they already have a fully functioning medical examiner model. This would be helpful to Albany County because we wouldn't have to start from scratch. We wouldn't have to try and hire a pathologist. We wouldn't have to try and figure out where autopsies or office space would be located. So once we identify neighboring county, at that point, we would discuss with them what a pricing structure may look like. Because again, we want to make sure Albany County, if we pursue this path, isn't overpaying for services. We would move forward with that with entering into an agreement by creation of a local law and associated shared services agreement. So again, what that would look like is moving from a coroner model to a medical examiner model with another county. That county would be Albany County's medical examiner because they would have the staff and they would kind of be ready to run, if you will. And then decedent transport would still be handled by Albany County Funeral Homes. Very last slide. I know last time I presented, one of the points that we touched on was regional morgue. That's still something our work group is keeping in mind because quite frankly, there's still a need for it. In this area, there are 2 hospitals that are the primary sites for where autopsies and associated morgue services are conducted. If one of those hospitals decides they don't want to do that anymore or they don't have the space, this area is going to have a big problem. And talking with other counties throughout this project, other counties are definitely interested in a regional morgue facility. So that's still something we're keeping in mind as we move forward, but as I'm sure all of you are very well aware, that would be an incredibly large project, which would take a lot of time and potentially a lot of money. But doing this middle step, if you will, of partnering with another county for a medical examiner would help us get to not only that end goal, but it would also help with cross-county collaboration as well.
Thank you. We'll take questions from committee members first, so Mr. Purley.
Just,
No,
I remember your presentation
Oh.
last night. I'm sorry?
I apologize. I forgot Dr. McLaughlin is on the law committee. I apologize, Dr. McLaughlin, but go ahead, Mr. Purley. We'll get right back to you.
Your last presentation had a breakdown specifically of the counties and their current structure. Could you remind us of the surrounding counties, which ones currently use the medical examiner model?
Yeah, of course. So my understanding is that Schenectady County uses a medical examiner model. Rensselaer County also uses a medical examiner model. I believe Saratoga County is currently using a coroner model.
Thank you.
Dr. McLaughlin, please go ahead.
Thank you. In this work that you've been doing, have the coroners been involved in this conversation as well as funeral directors?
So the coroners are aware that these conversations are taking place. I actually spoke with one of the coroners a couple weeks ago and he brought that up. Albany County definitely is going to take the coroners into account as we move through this process. We're not trying to leave them out of the loop or anything like that. As far as funeral directors, as we move further down this road, we'll definitely take the appropriate parties into account. But we also didn't want to run the risk of speaking to people prematurely and then realizing another county doesn't have the capacity to collaborate with us, or Albany County wants to stay with the coroner system. There were just too many variables. But yes, ma'am, as we move forward, we're definitely taking the appropriate parties into account.
I just wouldn't want to see us make a decision and then go back and ask, well, what do you think about this? I think it would be important
Right.
to have that input as you go through, but I also understand you don't want to be premature in bringing an initiative forward that may or may not
Right.
succeed. Thank you.
Quick question.
Thank you, Mr. Ricard.
Thank you. Just a couple questions. So if you go with this middle ground scenario, would you still have all the existing coroners you have now?
No, so
How many would it be reduced to?
0, because
Zero?
we would be moving to a medical examiner model.
Okay.
But the other county would be our medical examiner.
Okay.
So we wouldn't have coroners anymore. They would be replaced by the other county's medical examiner, who would be Albany County's medical examiner as well.
Because I thought you said something about it was a middle ground, we'd still have coroners. Something like that.
No, I apologize if I misspoke, but the middle ground would be, we get medical examiners and the coroners are no longer associated with that.
So, and this is probably a loaded question, do you anticipate there would be a large cost with this middle ground that you're alluding to?
So that's it.
Increasing cost?
Right, no, I understand it. I think it's a prudent question. We haven't gotten that far yet, and I don't want to speculate and give
Okay.
numbers that are later incorrect. I can tell you, the coroners right now, to my understanding, are part-time,
Yep.
and they're also not medical doctors. So potentially, there could be an increase in cost, just because, again, you are hiring a forensic pathologist, and they went to medical school.
I understand.
But as far as what that would look like cost-wise and how much more that would be or how much less that would be, we don't have enough information right now to answer that. But as we go forward, that's definitely something we're keeping in mind.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gillespie.
Hi, a quick question. So, have we reached out to the New York State Department of Health? Because I understand that there's a filing requirement with death certificates, and sometimes when you have this collaborative approach, sometimes the other counties are unable to file them timely, and it has a negative impact for the families who are trying to funeralize their loved ones. Then also, what if the death is initially ruled undetermined? Because there have been instances in which the death was an undetermined death, we had to wait on toxicology reports and things like that to come back. How would that look like in a combined?
So my understanding with death certificates would be if something is classified a certain way, in the example you gave undetermined, and later it's found out to be natural, accidental, one of the other 5 options that you have with that. At that point, I believe a death certificate amendment would be able to be filed. We would work with, again, as we go along, we would work with whatever county we decide to partner with to make sure that permissions are good to go for that, because that's certainly something that we would hate to see happen. But again, because Onondaga has done this successfully, I'm certain that there's a way for additional permissions, if you will, for that system to be in place.
Would you still have staff here that could field some of those questions? Because I used to be the registrar, and a lot of times when it was undetermined and it was pending an investigation, those families would want responses. And if we're partnering with the neighbor county, then would someone then have to tell them, we don't have that information here in Albany County, you'd have to go to Schenectady County to get that update?
Right. So again, as we go forward, we're definitely keeping an eye on the details like that, so I appreciate you bringing that up. Just kind of theoretically right now, how it would work is we would have staff that perhaps are Albany County employees working out of whatever the neighboring county's physical location is, would be able to answer Albany County specific questions. Another option would be, again, just broadened permissions for those joint county employees, if you will, so that they are able to appropriately answer family members' questions, funeral directors' questions, hospital questions, things of that nature.
Ms. Lakakis.
When you go through the flow chart and you said where the coroner thing was, you mentioned something, I believe, medical inspector might meet the person at the scene. Is that a job that a coroner could, is qualified to do if they would decide to
Potentially, so that position is a medical legal death investigator. There is training and certification that individuals do have to go through in order to be qualified for that job. So if a coroner was able to meet those qualifications and was a competitive candidate for that position, I don't see why not.
Mr. Bergedorf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You had mentioned the potential of partnering with a surrounding county that might have a medical examiner. Now, I can see in my head the 4 counties that surround us. What kind of models do they have for a medical examiner? Are they full-time? Are they part-time? Are they affiliated with a hospital? What kind of permutations of that?
So Rensselaer County, to my understanding, has a on-staff medical examiner. My understanding is they work out of a hospital facility space to conduct the autopsies. Rensselaer County, to my understanding, also has a medical examiner that's on contract to come in as needed in case your one medical examiner wants to take time off or there's an increase in caseload, whatever the case may be.
Per diem examiner, yeah.
So Schenectady County, to my understanding, has a medical examiner that is on staff, but their role is more of a liaison between their county Department of Health and the hospital. So Schenectady County is also paying for a secondary medical examiner that is a hospital staff employee who conducts autopsies for Schenectady County.
And I assume the other littler counties, does Saratoga have anything, or do?
So again, to my understanding, Saratoga has a coroner system.
Still has one.
That's my understanding, yes, sir.
So the 2 neighbors with medical examiners are Schenectady and Rensselaer. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Faye. I think that's all we have time for tonight.
Justin?
One more, Mr. Graham.
Yeah, I think this is what you said, that money, how much would the coroner's office cost and how much would the medical examiner's office cost? You don't have those numbers yet? I think it was.
I don't, because again, we're still in the process of identifying what county we would wish to partner with, and then at that point, seeing how much that county would charge us per case type. That way we can do a comparison of cost.
You say we're moving to a medical examiner model, but you also said that another county would be our medical examiner. I don't understand that.
So it would simply be a shared service. So that medical examiner would be handling their home county, if you will, cases, as well as Albany County's cases. Again, this has been done before by other counties. This is not something.
But we wouldn't be a medical examiner office if someone else is doing it.
Yes, we would. We would be a medical examiner county at that point. Because the local law would, to my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not an attorney, would be to change Albany County from a coroner's model to a medical examiner model. At that point, whether our medical examiner is in, 112 State Street or a neighboring county that we have a partnership agreement with, we would still be a medical examiner county at that point.
Thank you, Judge.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, just to kind of close it out. So, the medical examiner model is being looked at because it is a more professional model. We have coroners who are elected officials who don't require any training and essentially, you can be anybody and run for coroner. In the analysis that Faye and also Courtney have brought is that the medical examiner model will kind of professionalize the office and the function that would allow us to make sure that all of the things and kind of all of the, I gotta say this, that it's a very professional process from soup to nuts, including when, the coroner or the individual who shows up at the home, is collecting whatever information is there and making sure that there's not anything being handled improperly, which there have been complaints that are kind of serious and complaints that we have heard about that model. So we're looking to kind of professionalize this function. We're looking to make sure that it is something that, given workforce shortages because all of the individuals that Faye outlined in the chart and other are also in the same dynamic as other healthcare workforce vocations. There's shortages of medical examiners, there's shortages, all of the staff, the forensic teams who go in. So rebuilding that coroner model in Albany County, we may face the same challenges that a lot of other counties are facing. That was one of the issues that made Faye and her team kind of look at a shared services kind of model, where instead of paying Ellis Hospital to do autopsies, we would eliminate the expense of the coroner model and figure out, is there a county that we could partner with, that we would create kind of scale, efficiency scales and economic kind of scales of efficiency that would allow a smarter thing, with the ultimate goal maybe being some sort of regional forensic center that is years away and could be also a shared county function that would allow the county to do all kinds of things, toxicology, testing, all kinds of stuff. So this is being looked at as a reasonable, very thoughtful kind of transition to get us maybe to a possible scenario where we're actually producing revenue for the county through, this regional forensic center model.
One of the points to add to that, so the coroners do have to take a weekend training to become a coroner, but she is correct in that essentially my understanding is that the county resident can run for coroner. So, yeah, if anyone has any questions at any other point, feel free to reach out.
Thank you. I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Mr. Feeney, second. Mr. Ricard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Good job, Mr. Chairman.